Hi, everybody. Myself and Gerry are back for a little bit of a wrap-up video for the Wild West Exodus Global Gunslinger League. So, really, this one is just us sitting down, talking about what we thought of going through it ourselves, doing the building, doing the painting. We have games in the pipeline, so, don't go panicking about that. Just keep your little eyes peeled on the YouTube channel. Gerry, how did you find the Enlightened?
Opened a box and they were there. It wasn't bad. Obviously, it's a horde force, and I haven't really done the horde part of it yet.
Yeah.
So there's expansion is possible.
Mhm.
But it was interesting doing the various bits and bobs. Obviously, painting up awful lot of metallics in there between the construct cav, the gun dogs, and the delightful Eiffel on his crabs. So it meant I got a chance to play around with metallics and do some different things, which was nice. Different, and then a lot of fun dead. So yeah, interesting way to build it as well. You had a sort of I suppose a wave effect, do a bunch of people, then do a hero, do a bunch of people, do a hero. So it wasn't too intensive time wise. Whereas if you're often doing a hobby league like this, it can be quite a
Thing proposal.
robust, affair where you've got whole units and units, maybe 20 or 30 people. Whereas here it was after the initial box set, it was relatively simple to get into, and then just sort of channel your way through it.
Yeah, I mean, I have done slow grows before, but it's basically, you have a week to paint 10, 20 guys, and it's just like, please, no, too much, slow down.
Yeah, I think also it was a good opportunity to try, I suppose, a different approach to painting for me, where I'm just going, well, this is the end result I want. How can I achieve that with minimal effort and time? Because if left to my own devices, probably would have taken far longer on some of the models, which means that they're not going to get finished off and on the table. But this time round, I was able to get everything done and dusted for our games.
Well, I mean, for my painting of it, the way I was actually doing it was I actually had little segments of it just sitting on the work desk beside me with a very limited set of paints that I was planning to use for it.
Yeah.
And it's just every time I hit render on a video, it was just like, all right, pick up the paintbrush, get a little bit more done. And I think that's something I fall out with a lot whenever I'm painting miniatures is, they'll sit out and sit out and sit out, and I don't really have that trigger point to get me painting, which it can be really disheartening because then it's just sitting there staring at you, just going, "Why have you left me here to die?"
Well, there is that, and you had a very, I suppose, uniform is the way to go.
Well, it's kind of what I wanted to go for. It fits the faction that, funnily enough, they would have a uniform, but there was enough variation between each of the different miniatures to where I didn't feel like I was painting the same miniature over and over again, except for the Tesla bots, because those things are, identical.
Is that the paint you use then?
Yeah, so the first thing I wanted to show everyone is just the exact range of paints that I was picking from. So simple gold, simple silver, the Nasbreg yellow. I don't think I actually used because normally I like putting silver down and then putting it over the top from a gold, but I went, nah, too many steps in that. Just put that shining gold down there and get on with it. And then all of my leathers and stuff was for the dark leather was the wildwood. For the light leather was it should be there. It might not be there. I may have done goofed.
Is it in the other set? Was it Skeleton Horde?
Snakebite leather.
Oh,
there it is. It's on the end. You were hiding it from me, you fiend.
I didn't realize there were so many paints. I had a considerably smaller palette for mine. I think I used 6, 7 colors total. That was it.
I see. Really, for that, it was just so that I could apply a little variation. If I noticed something that was just a nice standout detail that I wanted to add to it. And then I tried to make the sandbags on this one as dirty as I could. Which I think worked reasonably well.
Yeah, filthy sandbags.
Yeah.
One step away from dipping and moving on. Oh, that's the one I want to go to.
Well, they all did get a non-oil at the very end just to deepen some of the shadows.
Yeah.
I think my favorite one that I painted was probably Carl Fredrickson out of this lot. I think he turned out the best of everybody. Just because it turned out as a nice, simple, clean paint job.
So shiny.
I know. I didn't matte coat.
Hey, to each their own.
Mm-hmm.
I was just talking about how shiny his blue trousers were. He's got stonewashed denims and he hasn't got round to stonewashing them yet. They're just new out of the packet.
You see, I was kind of thinking with this one, I wanted to have the color on there, that particular blue, just to tie him to the army a little more. And he is an outlaw, so if I pick up an outlaw box later on, he can just slot straight in there.
One step away from red legs.
Yeah.
See, I would have done his hat like Union cavalry, a nice name. Well, to be fair, I would have done the Union like the Union. They're very bright in comparison to the historic Union, which would have been like a navy or Prussian blue coat.
Again, this
very striking.
See, this was something I was thinking about because they're going down on a gaming table. I kind of want them to pop. So doing them in dark, I don't know, maybe they would blend in a little more.
Yeah, it's teach their own. I mean, it's the look they've gone for with the studio paint jobs as well. They've decided to go for
something a little more cell shaded.
Well, I was going to say the ultramarine blue rather than a navy blue for the Union's outfits. It'd be fascinating to see how one looks if it's actually painted up like the Union.
If you want, I can send you one. We have spares.
Yeah, maybe in the new year. I have plenty of other things to do before then.
Yeah.
So you got through and finished off with the big man.
Yeah, honestly, I will say the big legendary Tesla to finish things up, it was fun, but a little bit stressful because I was trying to get all the rivets and eventually I gave up because you can see some of them I've done, some of them I haven't. And it's just like, he's enough. He's picking out the detail. He's good. Let's move on. Let's play.
Oh, dear.
I do suffer from burnout.
A good way to do that is with a Sharpie marker. Give yourself a silver Sharpie, and then you can just go ... and not have to worry about the finickiness of keeping your paint fluid on a brush.
Yeah. But I mean, for
biffy looking fellow.
He is, and I mean, for something that's tabletop ready, when it's 3 foot away, you'll never see the mistakes.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's something so many people forget is when you're 3 foot away from the miniature, you're not going to see all that.
No, very true. Very true. I mean, my own was a similar experience. We'll skip the legendary fellow for the moment, who uses all the metallics, but the likes of these things, where these would be part of a horde army. I mean, they got their skin tones done and then cheap and cheerful washes or light colors for the cloth, and there wasn't a huge amount of shading. In fact, if I could just go straight over the zenith and leave it at that, I would. I also decided I'd copy the box art where they all have striking white hair. So it was, minimal detail to get them on and move along. Even doing things like the clocks and the timers, very little on them, because it's like you say, it's about getting tabletop ready and within the time scale. So we had 6 weeks, whatever, well, after the initial push, because the first group is fairly big for both forces because it's part of that Showdown of Retribution starter box. Where's yours?
I mean, I will say that
yours is the first 6 entries. There is all Showdown of Retribution.
Yeah.
So
I will say I think you got a little bit of an easier time of it from the starter box because it was less miniatures, even if they were bigger.
Yeah. Where are we? So my starter box was, there we go. So 3 spiders, 2 construct cav, 2 faces, and Eiffel, which helped a bit, especially considering how much there was to come later on. But it was still a case of getting a color scheme and then going with it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't particularly, I didn't want a particularly uniform look, I suppose, across the whole thing, because I wanted them to be more sort of hodgepodge. So I just kept a simple color palette and then went with that, and then hoped that the bases would do most of the work, which you're not going to get to see.
Most of your stuff is a civilian-based build.
Yeah, well, civilian or ex-civilian.
Mm.
I mean, not everybody's a civilian anymore.
Mm.
Once you've glued together several people, they then
Mm-hmm.
become fighters for me. But uh, but yeah, getting through those and getting into things like the automatons. So having people like the constructed menials and henchmen, or the rebuilt colossus like Younger here, they take a bit more time and effort than just doing some very quick metallics on the gun dogs,
I
just to
mean,
sort of fire those out.
I now I will say for anyone that's at home that has followed along with us, they're going to be sitting there with some extra miniatures from some of the boxes that have been picked up to make everything. So honestly, I would say next step from here is start looking at that. So maybe change out your hero again to the hero from that other box as well.
Yeah,
It will
there's
change how you play.
a few bits in the posse box that I got Younger from,
Mm-hmm.
and then finished it off with Gustav,
Mm-hmm.
who right off the bat, the first thing I did was build a base for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then that meant I had to reposition the entire model to get him to actually be crawling across the base like a creepy crawly man.
Yeah. So
Um,
instead of facing downward.
yeah, not just that. I mean, all of the extended legs went onto one side, so he's bunched up on the
Mm-hmm.
left and spread out on the right as we look
Mm-hmm.
at it. Um, and then having to adjust the heights because it goes from the tall boardwalk at the back onto the sand at the front, but also onto these rocky outcrops. So none of the legs are at the same height either. So I had to pin him in place through his bottom, hold him level, and then attach the legs and orientate each one as I go. So when you're doing something like a slow grow league, I will suggest probably not the
But that,
best way to do that if you're after speed. You know,
yeah. Well, there
just put them
is.
as together as they come and move on with your life, and
Mm,
don't go, I really need to build up these things,
mm.
because time is of the essence.
I do want to see how you did these bases, like the railway one and stuff. I would love to see how that went together.
Yeah, they're mostly fairly simple techniques. So
Mm.
there's bits and pieces that I've probably already covered in previous Gerry cans on the site,
All right.
and other ones that will pop up
Mm.
in the future. I'll try and get some pictures of the completed force, although they're currently in the studio. So it'll probably be the new year before they get actually photographed. But you can see some of the work in progress in the black and white shots there, and it's just a case of going, well, either lollipop sticks or balsa wood, and then build whatever it happens to be, whether it's a fence, a railing, a boardwalk, a set of sleepers for a railway track, whatever you're after. It's simple techniques, and just stick them together, and then slap as much pigment over everything as you can at the end to mask it. It's the way to go.
Makes 1,000 sins.
Yeah, well, it works for me. Obviously, I've got a fair bit more to do list wise anyway, because there are options in my list, with some of the special rules that actually I can I should be picking up more figures for it. So the just hex beasts, or the regular hex beasts, are a thing that my faction can sort of spawn onto the tabletop, which I don't have any in the list currently. But I think before expanding the posse any further, getting some of those so I can actually take advantage of that rule is probably a good way to go.
Yeah, and they don't even add to your points at all. They just trigger whenever something of yours with tainted dies.
Yeah, yeah. So it's another option on the tabletop that
Mm.
I have open to me, but I didn't have access for the Let's Plays. So I'd like to see how that sort of comes out. And also, you could go in and tinker with the factions and the posses that you've already built, because you can just jump on and grab the relevant cards from the WoW Exodus website anyway.
Again,
Uh,
it's really handy just to have there because you can basically start doing your list building without having to grab stuff, and even do some play testing if you want to just do some count size.
yeah, oh yeah, because you've got the base sizes and the like on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you can download all the specific unit cards. You've got the faction info. It's also where you go if you want to be finding things like the build guides and that sort of thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good way to go if you want to build specific posses as well, and become a bit more focused I suppose, in the build, and then get those additional rules because of them. So for the Enlightened, you can scroll down and see, is there any that you can actually use from what I've built already? There's kind of gun dogs in there, but no, none of those. It mostly revolves around your faces and leaders, sort of define who you're going to be playing as. So there's some interesting bits and pieces you can do there. So here's the spider in the web detachment. If I've Gustav and Strider Cav, and then a further Enlightened unit and 3 more up to, then you get the bonus that focused movement is free for your charge actions, which for Gustav and his Scutley Spider Cav people is a particularly good way to go. You know, I've already got that. I can run the spider in the web detachment with what I've built over the past few weeks. I get that little bonus, little perk for essentially nothing at all. It's built into my list as is, because I am a fan of the Scuttlers. So yeah, it's handy to be able to have access to those tools without having to go and pick up books and purchase cards and that sort of thing. You can list, build, and craft your force in advance and see where you want to go. So I like that.
Another important thing is people actually do still have time to get in on this. If you're just discovering the last video now, go back to the first, jump in and join us, because you know we're not picking the winners until into the new year, I believe.
Yep. Yeah. If anybody wants to pick up the prize bundles, so essentially win my add-ons or Justin's add-ons to the forces, you can still do that, and we'll be picking those from the project system in the new year. But if you're just fancy getting started into Wild West Exodus, all of those videos and the PDFs are still relevant and will continue to be relevant for some time to come. So you can choose to join in when you want, and you don't have to hammer into 6 weeks of a build. It could be 6 months if you want. You know, take it at your own leisure. All of the details are there and they're all accessible. I think that about wraps us up for this one. If people want to see how it plays, tune in next week, where we will have a Let's Play going up on the site of
crossing fingers if I get it done in time before Christmas holidays. The
Showdown at Retribution. And then in January, we're going to be having a full-on game with our posses, so people can see how the full 6 weeks has come together and how they look on the tabletop. But until then, bye-bye.
Join the Global Gunslinger League and track your progress in the OnTableTop project system for your chance to win one of 2 Wild West Exodus bundles. See the link in the description for more details.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.